with your hosts, Dornall and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. Geek Gab for Saturday, September 7th, 2019. Coming at you live today. Guaranteed live because, frankly, if we had to record this thing, I am absolutely sure we would be buried under technical difficulties. But as it is, using the absolutely superb StreamYard, we are doing just fine. So, hey, Dornall, we are back. I almost forgot to say that, didn't I?
Almost.
My bad. Dornall, how was your week?
Hey, it was a pretty good week. I actually missed most of it. I was logged on to World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I hear World of Warcraft Classic isn't actually vanilla.
Not quite. It's there are some user interface tweaks. There are a few. It's probably a little easier to play than it was back then. It's more or less vanilla, though.
I got a story to tell.
Do you now?
Unless you have anything else to add about your week.
No, I'm sure I'll remember something that happened besides World of Warcraft eventually.
So, my brother is in town because he's going to a convention. It's called FanX, and it's here in Salt Lake City. So, yesterday, he wants to go to Larry Correia's booth to his book signing because he's a big fan of Larry Correia. So he shows up at the booth early so he can be the first in line, and there's no one else in line yet. So he had done something canny. He showed up early, which meant he gets to get his book signed quickly, get in, get out, maybe talk to Larry a little bit. Unfortunately, Larry isn't there yet. So he's going to have to wait a little bit longer. And he expected that because he's there before the signing's supposed to start. But there's somebody else there, another author or somebody working with Larry. And he talks with him for a bit. And he says, oh, by the way, my brother is, he uses my real name. And the guy says, who? You have no idea who I am. And my brother says, Daddy Warpig. And the guy says, oh, yeah, Daddy Warpig. I know who that is. I am known under Daddy Warpig, and nobody knows. It's not like it's a secret. It's not like it's hidden. It's not like I'm a pseudonymous, right? But still, Daddy Warpig gets people recognized as being related to me. And my real name, nothing.
Based on prior experience with Larry in Salt Lake City, I can fully confirm the accuracy of that anecdote.
Is it a Daddy Warpig love fest out there in SLC?
Apparently. I'm going to rename a street after him.
Warpig Avenue. Wow, what a great name for a street.
The Avenue of the War Pigs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we need a nice bronze sculpture of a war pig right there at the head of the street.
I even have an official gang sign now. Yeah, I know how to throw up the W now for war pigs.
The W for war pig. That's amazing.
There are three of us, and that's legally enough for a gang. So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, the FBI's already been watching your Twitter stream, Daddy Warpig, so that's it. You're going to get yourself official. It's going to be us and the Juggalos, domestic gangs.
Bring it.
I don't think there's a Juggalo Warpig overlap, though.
I like Vigo. What else you got? Sorry.
There is a huge overlap between people who follow me on Twitter and military veterans, like long-term military veterans, 20-year plus military veterans. It's
Well, that's probably the Korea influence, right?
it's kind of astounding, really.
Marshall Victory in the chat suggests War Pig Alley. I like it.
War Pig Alley.
War Pig Alley.
And then Emmett Fitzhume has a great singer here. They would have to rename it because nobody crosses War Pig and lives.
So, anyways, we have a guest on the show, I hear.
We do. Who is it?
Oh, he didn't show up, Brian. You'll have to do.
Yeah. No, I was flashing back a bit there. Yeah,
It's always good to have you back.
It's always good to be back.
Is anybody in the crowd new to this? Should we introduce you properly?
Go ahead.
Brian Niemeier, science fiction author, Campbell nominated, and Dragon Award winning novelist, is here to talk about your new giant robots pounding each other into rubble book. Was that a fair assessment? It's a lot more than that. That really was not fair at all. It's a lot more than that.
Well, sorry to cut you off, but there is one correction. It's not Campbell nominee anymore.
Oh yeah, that's right. They unpersoned Campbell, didn't they?
They did.
What is it called now? Astounding Award or something like that?
Yeah, it is. They named it after the magazine.
Are you kidding me?
But they can't retroactively change all the prior nominations. If someone who won the award would say, "Yeah, I won the Campbell Award back in 1984 or whatever."
You'd think so, but Scalzi, for example, is out there saying, "Yeah, I fully endorse this. Campbell was a horrible fascist, and I'm proud to be a retroactive astounding nominee." I should probably say that in a higher register. Anyway,
how is it a bunch of authors have not read 1984 and they don't understand what type of person or what's required for rewriting history?
Yeah, I mean, trad-pub authors with no understanding of the past who have perhaps purposefully memory hold it to bring up Orwell. Yeah, this is my shock face. But, no, I want to get a confirmation here. So, DW, you had not heard about this. You missed this.
I guess not. He's missing a lot.
Oh well, he's busy.
Wait, did somebody ask me a question?
It was really fast. He said D-Dub.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the chat. I was trying to get caught up with the chat to see if there were any questions or something. I figured you two were talking. I'd run through real quick and, do the backup job.
That's okay. I need to enunciate more carefully.
Okay, I'm here. DW is paying attention. What was the question?
So you had not heard that they renamed the Campbell Award.
I heard there was some rant about it, that some chick got up on stage, like at the Campbells, who was presenting the nominations and did some stupid rant. I didn't hear anything else. I just figured that was as far as it went.
No.
You got to understand that my life is really hectic right now for many reasons. And so if I don't run across something that forces me to learn the entire story of something, I just don't go hunting for it because I don't have time or energy enough to care.
I see.
Like the Sharpie thing, I still don't know entirely what it's about. I just know the specter of CNN like arguing with itself over when it lied about agreeing with Trump is so colossally stupid they have to be wrong somewhere.
Good point.
I'm just saying, maybe I should have made a different point than like a political one, to stick with this show, but still, I hear things, oh yeah, Campbell was a fascist. I'm like, dude, I'm well known as like the big firebrand against that age of the killjoys, the commies, and the cognitively challenged. They rode in on their mopeds and ruined science fiction. Okay, I am known for not liking that age. Campbell's age. At the same time, you see that Campbell, Killjoys, commies, cognitively challenged, how that all fits? At the same time, I don't think he was a fascist. I mean, they call anybody a fascist. Do you want the law enforced? Then you're a fascist. Do you like marching bands dressed in uniforms? Then you're a fascist. Do you want the military or police dressed in uniforms? Fascist! So I assume whenever an SJW accuses somebody of being a fascist, that they're lying. And I didn't dig into it any deeper than that. So, my bad.
I think we can let it go this time.
Amen.
So they cancel cultured Campbell is what happened.
Yes.
With the history retroactively erasing his name from the award, that's a nice touch. I like that.
Man. I wish Orwell was still alive so he could see all this stuff. He killed himself, literally killed himself to write that book. He was sick. He was ill with a very, very bad case. I think it was the flu, but it might have been something else, something that was treatable. Like if he had stopped writing 1984, he could have gotten treatment and maybe would have lived, but he maybe could have died anyway, and we would never have gotten 1984. But he kept at it in his bed, sick as garbage, and finished that book to give it to the human race. And that book has proved such a treasure trove of concepts and information that it's like, you know what? I am sad that Orwell died. But at the same time, if he died producing this work, then he at least left a legacy behind that was fitting his talents, that was fitting his talent and his intelligence and his life experiences. He left something behind of great worth and value. And that is something that is, that's something that every artist can aspire to. It's like that what you leave the world will be remembered as being worthwhile, being worth you having been here.
It is, and it's a testimony against us that we didn't listen to the warning he gave his life for.
That's something worth dying for.
So,
not the forgetting part.
They unpersoned Campbell. Holy crap!
Long before Gernsback gets the same treatment.
Man alive.
I mean, nobody's really surprised, right?
Was there anything else that happened at the Hugos that I missed? Any other particular atrocity this year?
Just other than the winners looking like the most isolated cantina denizens in evening wear, that's about it.
Oh yeah, did you see that picture? I should try and find that picture.
Other than the winners looking like the product of the ice sculpture challenge, the World Ice Sculpture Challenge in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Yeah. Other than that, no, nothing.
No,
okay.
Actually, it was pretty uneventful other than that ridiculoulessness.
Yeah, the speech and then the impersonating. Yeah.
They've gone back to complacency, but it's funny. They are strutting around like, like the pimpest penguin in the South Pole. And, like a little penguin would if you gave him some gold chains and some grills and a big fur coat. He'd be strutting up and down on the ice floes. Give him a cane, right? That is a penguin. And all the other little penguins look at him and say, he's so pimp. He's so pimp. I want to grow up to be just like him. And they think they're bad. They think they, quote unquote, won. And they didn't win. the only reason nobody's fighting over the Hugos anymore is because they have sunk into obscurity. Nobody cares anymore. They have succeeded in cementing the irrelevance of the Hugo Awards. They're nobodies now. They are tiny little nothings. I mean, we had Mark Hamill come out to FanX last year, and we have an NFL basketball team here in Utah, the Utah Jazz. And they have a stadium that sits multiple tens of thousands of people. I don't want to say how much because I don't actually know, but it's like 30,000 people, 40,000 people sit in this stadium. And we had Mark Hamill come out here to do a question and answer session at FanX. And they had to block off about a third of it, but the rest of it was filled with people. So Mark Hamill filled up a stadium, we'll say 40,000 people. You block off a third of it, you know, that's going to be what? Just about like 25,000 people left, right? 25,000 people sat down and talked to Mark Hamill and asked him some questions and had a discussion with him. And that is 5 times more than the people who show up to Worldcon, the World Science Fiction Convention. 5 times as many people showed up to ask Mark Hamill questions at this convention than go to all of the world science fiction convention.
Well,
like, that's relevant.
For more direct comparison, the Dragons are moving from strength to strength. They're running roughshod over Worldcon. I didn't see the voting or attendance numbers this year, but it just keeps growing. And then Larry posted on Facebook some whining article by Cora Buellert, who's like, well, the Dragon Awards still managed to fall short of respectability. And translation, they're not woke enough for you. Well, there might be a causal relationship between our award gaining popularity and yours shriveling to irrelevancy. Just a thought.
Yeah, and that sort of that false dichotomy of it's a popularity contest versus a judgment of quality. Like we're gonna select for the right voters, and instead of and in their mind selecting for the voters with the right politics, of course they're going to vote for the best stories.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. Originally, the Worldcon crowd claimed that their awards were not only the best, but they're what the science fiction readership wanted. And the Dragons are like, okay, well, here's just an honest to goodness People's Choice Award. And the difference couldn't be more stark if you compare the winners. What actual fandom is voting for is they're voting for Larry Correia, they're voting for Nick Cole, right?
Yeah, sort of these guys that until I did the show with you, Brian, I had no idea that there were so many popular authors making money hand over fist just serving their audiences. Like these are guys that you never even heard of, but they've got thousands and thousands and thousands of readers who just love them and want to see them succeed.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. I mean, that let's take the example of literally who has sadly returned recently after committing murder, but
Whoa,
she's going to fail upward. I'm totally serious. She's going to fail upward into a cushy Marvel writing gig, right? So the SJWs have this whole support structure because they've captured the institutions. So they get to just move like locusts, destroying one field after the next. I mean, she destroyed Vertigo. Now she's going to ruin, I think, Hellcat is the book she's on. It is literally leaving a trail of bodies. But yeah, dude, they just go, good for you, you little scamp here. You want a lollipop? And he just pat you on the head and kick you up to the next office higher up in the next floor. Meanwhile, we're on our own. Like that readership that Nick and Larry have, they had to build that through pleasing readers, through learning the ropes, learning marketing and the algorithm. And like Daniel Warpick said, they're actually making a living with this. If folks like Jemison and Scalzi left their New York sinecures and actually had to come over to Indy with us, their mojo would totally fail them. They'd be working at Uber or Starbucks within a month.
Well, I wonder about that. Maybe Scalzi's a bad example. I've never heard him described as any better than an okay author, but he does seem to have a lot of fans, and I think he'd prove you wrong. Not that I think he's any good, but I think he'd prove you wrong. I think if he really got out there and had to sell his book himself to, all the people that follow his blog or whatever, I think he'd be able to afford a cup of coffee anyway.
I don't.
No.
Not for long. Because he's not fast enough.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
He
wouldn't make enough off the back catalog. He's not producing enough stuff.
Yeah, the name of the game, if you're going to go new pub, is fast release. I mean, ask John Delrose about this. We got on last week. Ask Nicole. You've got to produce. You can't get away with 1 or 2 doorstopper novels a year.
Well, that's a good point. I keep going back to this example. I knew someone who read romance novels, and Nora Roberts is like the queen of romance novels, and she just puts out like 2-3 books a year, and it's the same dozen stock characters, sort of grab a few of them and mix them up in a different way for each book, and she just pumps them out.
Yeah, that's slow. I mean, I've got the image somewhere around here, but just how much romance dominates fiction. I mean, I really think it shouldn't be categorized as a fiction genre alongside science fiction, fantasy, mystery, and thriller, and horror, because, I mean, let's be honest, romance is to women what like Hustler and Playboy are to men.
Oh, for sure.
They're not, they don't get... A romance reader isn't reading a romance novel for the same reason that a sci-fi reader reads a sci-fi story or a horror reader reads a horror story. Nevertheless, this is where we are, and it is cataloged with the other genres, and it just blows them away by like 3 or 4 times. And a lot of those are indies who are cranking out a book a month.
Well, I mean, I don't even know how to comprehend. Like, I know that I talked to John about this in person, and the dude he barely has time to sleep.
Yeah,
John Delrose. I don't know how they do it. Plus, can we talk about comics for a second? How are they so successful? Do either of you guys know?
How were they, or are they?
Are they? I mean, John Delrose is making so much more cash and exposure. So he's making a bigger splash with his comic Kickstarters than with his actual novels. What is going on? Daddy Warpig, you read comics. Can you shed any light on this? This is insane.
It's a real bad day to ask me to synthesize new thoughts right now.
Because I know that you've been catching up on comics. I know that I don't know. They just seem really popular. I don't understand it.
There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of furor in comics right now, and I think that a lot of people who are longtime comics fans are up in arms about it, and I think that's driving them to support comics at price points they wouldn't otherwise buy. I bought something last month on an Indiegogo at a price point I still think is insane, and I'm still kind of mad at myself for doing it. At the same time, I don't know that I would go back and change it even if I could. I'm just like, that's a lot of money, man. So maybe people are in there like I am. I'm not saying John is that expensive, but my point is, if someone who is this expensive, it was $70 for 2 trade paperbacks, but they would be like $12 or $15 from Marvel or DC, and it was a piece. So like $30 from Marvel or DC, 35, and he was selling them for 70. So John isn't nearly that expensive. So you can see why John would make a lot of money if people are willing to shell out 70 from John Malin, why they would shell out, 30 from John Delarose. So maybe that's why he can make so much, is that people are willing to spend at higher price points just to get some good comics.
Well, all right. I'll buy that. I mean, I won't. But so, all right. That's enough drama. I want to know about giant robots, Brian.
What would you like to know about giant robots?
Well, I mean, I know a little bit about this Indiegogo campaign. I have to give disclosure. I didn't wait until the show to buy a Build-A-Mech perk. I'm in. I've funded this. I'm excited. But what can you tell me? What's your pitch on this one?
Well, first of all, I can tell our viewers that if you look at the picture on screen right now, and you see those little thumbnails below the video, the green ones, it's like starting third from the left. Those are John's previous Build-A-Mech entries from our last campaign.
I love this stuff. I love this stuff. This wasn't even the picture I had in my head when I started working with you, and we've got such a great guy in chat, Art Anon, and we worked with him over the course of a few days over email, and he comes out with this really great stuff.
He's a joy to work with. In fact, if you scroll through, everything to the right of that until the last one, except for the last one, is a Build-A-Mech. So you just scroll through those, and there's another form of yours. I've got all these up on my website, Kairos, under the Mecha tab. I've got stats for all of them, too.
I like this one, the guy with the big club.
Oh, sorry, that is not a Build-A-Mech, but that one is.
Oh, the one with the big club is not a Build-A-Mech.
No, this one is. The one before it was not.
Oh, okay.
But that one right there is a Build-A-Mech. So is that.
This is awesome.
And so is that.
I love this. I love that thing that you do for your readers. It's a great idea. I wish more people would do it. I tried to get John Delarose to do it, and I don't think he took me up on the offer.
To kind of give readers a stake in the book.
Yeah.
Because I figure if you give people ownership, it doesn't detract from your ownership, because they're going to do it anyway. Anytime someone reads one of your books, he generates a whole new universe in his head, and it's not the one you initially thought of, like you were saying with your first Build-A-Mech, right? That is your idea filtered through Art Anon's pen, and that happens anytime anyone consumes some form of literature. So I figure, why not, instead of trying to work against the process, work with it, right? And
Yeah, that's what made our experience really good too, because I would have a vague idea, a vague notion of what I wanted to do, and you would then return with, okay, I can work that into my story, into my narrative, into my world, kind of like this, and then we can build off of that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I got to point out that Emperor, who's in chat right now, designed the other Build-A-Mechs besides yours. Hopefully, we can talk him into coming back and doing another one. Because, man, between the two of you, we've got a nice fleet going.
I don't mind being personally responsible for half the amazing Build-A-Mechs in the universe. I actually gave it a day. I gave it 2 or 3 days, I think. In fact, when your campaign started, I'm like, I'm going to let someone else pick up these perks. I just can't have them all to myself.
You do a good enough job.
I'm glad people like it, because my first one was really weird. My next one's going to be a little bit more traditional.
Still exciting, though, I think.
Oh, of course, I think so.
I will also point out that as of this broadcast, there is one Build-A-Mech slot left. Okay.
Someone's got to pick it up.
There are three. I was reading the wrong one. There are three left.
Okay.
They're going fast.
So yeah, this is for the novel. I think everybody listening pretty much knows what this is about. What other perks can you get on this? I should just scroll down.
Well, the one that there's one of left, the one I was actually looking at is a Be in a Book, where you can self-insert, or you can claim it on behalf of a friend or loved one, or an enemy. Although I would recommend the Be Killed in a Book perk for that.
Oh yeah.
I charge extra to make you a character and kill you, which has been quite popular because it's mean. You know it's going to be interesting. You're not just going to like slip in the shower. All right.
For anybody watching on YouTube, yeah, I've got the page up right now. Be in a Book. There's one available. 3 out of 4 claimed. That's 100. But Be Killed in a Book. There's still 3 of those. Charge you extra to be killed. You got someone you don't like. Great.
And I know some folks have their eyes on that, so don't delay. Because let's see, we are currently less than $60. Yeah, we're like $53 from unlocking our second stretch goal, and that's the trading cards.
Trading cards. Is this related to is that a game, or is it just like old baseball cards?
They're like old baseball cards, but they also have the mech's complete stats on the back. So one, they make handy bookmarks. 2, they make handy references for if you're reading a giant robot fight and you want a scorecard on the participants.
Oh.
You can refer to the cards. Yeah, so they're people love them for that. So we've got our third run of trading cards. The first 2 are still available for sale as perks this time, but we haven't yet released the third. And as a matter of fact, if you scroll up and go to the updates tab, I announced our winners, and you can see the 4 designs that are going to be the next one of trading cards, 3 of which are Build-A-Mechs.
So you're going to get trading cards of the core first. That's the guy with the giant chain sword. The XSeed 100. That's with the pepper box rifle.
Yep.
The guy with the
Shotgun, actually, yeah.
a shotgun. The guy with the heavy armor, and of course your new image here, the big Metatron.
Indeed.
Well, I voted for my Harvester, of course, but that wasn't gonna win the trading card battle.
It came really close, though. It had a good showing.
Okay.
You got nothing to be ashamed of. I believe it just missed the cut by a couple of votes, and it was right under Metatron.
Here's the good thing about Indiegogo. If you do good on Indiegogo, they will absolutely promote you. Your boy Zach, who is notorious for having people coming after him, accusing him of being a Nazi, Indiegogo pushes him on their front page because he makes a ton of money on Indiegogo, which means he makes a ton of money for Indiegogo. And despite all the people that are attacking him and complaining to them and trying to get him taken down, they publicize him on the front page.
Yeah, man. Bottom line is what matters.
I mean, it doesn't matter for Patreon. It doesn't matter for Kickstarter. But on Indiegogo, even if you're quote unquote deplorable, they will promote you. So that's just a thought for you guys out there who are looking at crowdfunding campaigns. Indiegogo, at least right now, will actually publicize you if you give them good returns. So
yeah, they publicized my first 2 campaigns. They featured them. So, and like 40% of my backers for the first campaign came from Indiegogo, and it's gone down a bit because I retained those people, and they come back. But this time it's still like a good 5%. Our new faces brought in by Indiegogo. So the consensus among guys like me and JD and Kursova is Indiegogo is a little better for creators, whereas Kickstarter is better if you have a product. So that's what we found. But anyway, I know Darnell's been trying to get the synopsis of this book out of me all show, so I'll go ahead and deliver here. The general concept for Combat Frame XSeed is I found that the mecha genre, both major branches, both the anime spiky mech and the Western stompy mech, were really moribund. They kind of said what they wanted to say. We're just kind of trapped in a trope spiral that's more anime, like we're either doing Gundam or Eva. That's all anything can be. And then in the West, we descended kind of into the Space Marine gray goo meat grinder. So I thought, this could really use a shot in the arm. And examining the problem, I saw, well, you know what? These two genres are really complementary, and each one kind of makes up for what's lacking in the other. So why don't we do a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup here? Why don't we do like Jurassic Park and splice the DNA from one into what's lacking in the other and make something new? So I was just hoping to just create something fun, something a bit fresh in the mech genre while doing what's basically a Gundam homage. But readers have really latched onto this and said, no, this is a minor revolution in mecha. It's breathing new life into this. We kind of forgotten mecha could do this kind of stuff and make us feel this way. So it succeeded beyond my ambitions. I'm glad people are digging it. So that's the overall concept. I really think I established that in the first two books. So there's no reason for me to reiterate that in the third here. What we have with CY 42nd Coming is, like the title says, it's the conclusion, the second part of the Coalition Year 40 storyline begun in book 2. Okay, so Coalition Year 40 ended on a cliffhanger. I believe a natural cliffhanger. And CY 42nd Coming picks up immediately after Coalition Year 40 left off. We just get right back into the action, and into the same battle from the end of book 2, and show the resolution of that. And then we move on and show the resolution of the story arc covering the events of Coalition Year 40.
And that was, of course, giant space battle. That was amazing.
No, thanks. I do enjoy those.
And if you like, as I'm gonna harp on the perks again, because sometimes your build a mech plays a significant part in the amazing cliffhanger ending. Something that is wholly unexpected when you build the mech, and it's great.
I try to give super abundantly, like with both hands. Most importantly. So yeah, how to describe this without spoilers? I believe it was in a Starfleet Battles module I was reading. I think it's where they introduced the Tholians, I want to say. And there's a brief story that I think ties into a Star Trek novel, but don't quote me on that, where, like, okay, Federation, you think you're the baddest kid on the block, but all right, now deal with this energy web, right? And the scenario is designed to be daunting to the player and to require most of your resources and all of your cunning to think your way out of. So you barely survive this new threat that's invaded Federation space. And then in the second module, you find out, oh, those guys that we thought were an invading armada, those were that race's equivalent of, like, the police. Those were mall cops. These guys over here are their military.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then just that sinking feeling sets in, right?
So you're setting up one of those, everybody's fighting over the fate of the Earth, or over control of the Earth, when something bigger and more, an existential threat actually appears.
Yeah, exactly. And we get the first glimmers of that in Coalition Year 40. It's expanded on And I actually answer the lingering questions from the previous 2 books in book 3 here in COI 42nd Coming. So if you've ever wondered, what did Sanzen find on Mars? What is Megami? Who was Marilyn talking to when she was doing her whole SETI at home thing? What was with the kind of weird time warps that Max and Todd did at the end? I answer all that. I answer what the secta, including your Build-A-Mech, is. And then I introduce something just orders of magnitude more horrifying, which will form the basis of the conflict for the third main story arc, the concluding story arc of Combat Frame XSeed, and Combat Frame XSeed S and Double S.
That's pretty grand and sweeping. And I appreciate that, because you have left a few things unanswered. And I think you answered the question about the weird time blips in private conversations, but you haven't really done a full explanation in book, in the actual narrative. So those are sort of outstanding, dangling questions. They're like, so what did happen there? What actually went on at the end of that book?
Yeah, and we're going to get those answers.
Cool. I like the answer. I think everybody's going to like the answer, or what little of the answer you were allowed to show me.
Well, I'm glad you're backing me up on this, that I'm not just pulling a Robert Jordan or George R. R. Martin. Well, I take that back. I think Robert Jordan actually did have it planned out, but I'm not just making this up as I go along. I know exactly where I'm going. I've had all of this outlined for years, and I'm just executing.
Right. Yeah, I mean that much is clear. This isn't one of those things where, I need the good guys to teleport away to survive this. So it happens. There we go. I'll figure it out later. That's not what's happening here. It's definitely something that you intended to happen, or something that you intended to explain later.
Yeah, if you dig into it, you'll note that I did set that up and gave her a good reason to have that information.
Mm-hmm.
Without going into spoilers.
Going into spoilers. Too many spoilers. I think you're being humble here when you talk about putting the pieces together and putting a book together that infuses the 2 aspects of the robot genre that you like. I think one aspect that you've glossed over is the fact that, as far as your style of writing goes, this might be your wheelhouse. This might be your genre right here. This military science fiction, anime-inspired action, because the pace that you hit in your writing is a different feel from your first series of books, and I for one like it.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's solid gold feedback. Thank you. Because from my point of view, I don't notice anything different when I sit down to write. I know I'm writing a different genre, different characters, but in terms of just the workmanlike nuts and bolts, my sentence and paragraph level writing, I don't notice a change.
Sure.
So I don't know. It might just be that old saw that writers get better with time, just from practice. That's probably what's happening.
Back to the chat. Let's test your robot knowledge to the chest. Can you help Emmett Fitzhume? Miniature robotics with wind-up motors. They resemble dinosaurs and AT-ATs.
Oh, those sound really familiar.
I have no idea. Apparently, someone in the chat thinks it's a manatee mech. I don't know.
I do see that he called for a platypus mech. I can't promise a platypus mech, but there will be a platypus in the series. If you scroll down to the image for the Be a Character perk.
Oh, sure. Let me find that.
And you see the character there? I'll wait for you. Because I love this image. It was done by my character portrait designer, Ashion101. It's Goldarphin on Twitter. She's great. She does it with my buddy, Adam Lane Smith's covers. But you will notice don't know if you can blow it up, but there's a platypus on her shoulder.
Sorry, I tried to zoom in and I didn't get what I wanted.
Yeah, I don't think it'll let you.
Okay. Yep, there's a little brown platypus on her shoulder.
His name is 007.
There we go. Yep, it's a anime-looking character with a platypus on her shoulder, and on the other shoulder is looks like a submachine gun. So there you go.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an MP5, but I think I just drew it a little big. It works though.
You get the impression.
Yeah. So yeah, you can look forward to Platypi. Unfortunately, I don't know what that tour series is, although it definitely rings a bell. Let me work on that for a minute.
Hey, and if you want a platypus mech, there's a real easy, I won't call it cheap, but there's a real easy way to get one in the series.
Ardenon did voluntarily do an emu mech.
An emu mech.
Oh yeah.
That's a great idea.
The CFE mu, the Greek letter -01. I believe its serial number.
Yeah, that's right. The platypus has electrical sensory organs and poison.
The males do, yeah.
So how would you model that in a mech? Would it actually inject poison, or would it be some sort of plasma attack?
Nanomachines.
Nanomachines.
Okay, Emmett, were you thinking of Robostrucks?
Robostrucks, I don't know.
Because I found that. I'll have to ask him.
I have no idea.
They look kind of like what he's talking about.
You mech guys are hilarious. That's a whole genre that passed me by, especially on the tabletop. BattleTech, MechWarrior, very popular franchises. So, are you planning on doing a full game, or are you going to do like an add-on? Like, here's how you can play XSeeds on your BattleTech table.
Well, one interesting development as I've released the XSeed series is I've accumulated an international team of expert anons to my side. I've got a small army of them now. So you know Art Anon, who is here with us. There's also Video Anon, who I'm sure is or will be watching this, who designed the book trailer for COI 42nd Coming, which if you compare it to the previous two, which I did myself, you can tell there's a marked jump in quality this time. That's at the top of the Indiegogo page. But there's also now Cardanon, who has joined us, and he had his own military, I think it's an LCG is what you'd call it, because it's not cardboard crack like Magic the Gathering. But he had his own rules, and he adapted XSeed to it. So,
that sounds nice.
Yeah, and so we've got the rules, we've got the cards. I'm just trying to figure out how to make prototypes. I think I'm just going to grab some card stock and print out a bunch of cards myself and play test it. But
yeah, if you've got a CCG collection, or if you've got opaque sleeves like for Magic cards or something like that, it's very easy to just print proxies, just standard printer paper, and then you could just use Magic cards or trading cards as the backers. If you're just testing, if you're just prototyping, even writing it on a slip of paper and tucking it in a sleeve is that's the way we do it when we play test. We play test vampire cards. We'll just we'll print and play. We'll just use existing cards as the back.
Oh yeah, I actually did a bunch of research on that about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and by intensive research, I mean I asked John about it. He can verify it's the truth.
Oh yeah. There are lots of print and play services, especially board games are so popular that there's services that will play or they'll print prototypes for you to play with. And I don't know any off the top of my head. I don't know what's popular right now, but yeah, you can get cards printed if you really want proper cards printed. They're a little expensive, but ultimately, it might be your best bet for actually producing the games, like a print-on-demand service. But just for prototyping, you can pay a little extra and have it done. But I recommend just using some opaque sleeves and just regular printer paper, or even notebook paper, if you just want to write it down with a pen. That's probably the quickest way to get the game into the hands of someone to play test.
Thanks, yeah, because I do get the magic sleeves. That's how I actually ship my XSeed trading cards.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, go Walmart, get a bunch of those. But I definitely don't want even playtesters to miss out on Ardenon and Todd's excellent artwork. So yeah, even if I just got to print out on regular paper and use other cards for the backing, that should be great because all the information on the card fits on one side. The rules have been described as very Yu-Gi-Oh like by people in the know. Take that for what it's worth. But yeah,
I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay.
Except that they made a cartoon, right? It was a cartoon where they played the card game.
Yeah, apparently the show sucks. The game is great. I hear that.
Okay.
Card game enthusiasts, but yeah, that is the one challenge because with my current printing service, which was the most reasonable I could find, like basically the minimum run of one particular printing of a card is 25. So I'm locked into doing at least 25. So when I offer a set of 4 cards, I'm really ordering 4 sets of 25 of the same card.
Oh.
Right, so 100 at a time. And that's, so they won't just let me mix up, be like, okay, I want you to print a 40 card deck with like 3 of each of these cards. They won't do that. So seeing as how there's like over a dozen different cards that we have, that would cost me a lot to do through this current service. So I'll have to either find something else, or it would probably take doing a crowdfunder just for the card game.
Oh, sure. You could do it that way. Do it on Kickstarter. You get your art resources set up. You have a nice campaign. It's big for board games right now. Board games and card games. You can get new stuff out on Kickstarter. In fact, I just got a request. A couple of people picked up brand new games from people who are proven board game makers. Like, yeah, I got the new thing off of Kickstarter, funded like 50,000. Got my copy. Let's learn how to play it right. Like these people are dropping serious cash. On these games.
I'm sorry. Let me jump in. You don't actually have to go to a card printing service if you don't want to, if that's too expensive. Although I can't imagine it'll be more expensive than the next option I'm about to give you. In the process of literally investigating this, if you have, there are a specific set of templates for labels for different options by a specific company that are industry standards. And somebody can remind you what this name is. I'm sure John will, because I can't remember the name right now. But you have a set of these templates. There'll be a standard Photoshop template for them that if you pick up a label, a sheet of labels or a stack of labels for them, you can print out, you can make up in Photoshop, mock up what you want in cards, and then print them out on your printer, a laser printer or whatever you have. Mm-hmm. And then there'll be labels you peel off, so they're stickers, and slap them on the front of regular playing cards. Just go buy yourself a cheapo box of bicycle cards or whatever, and then use standard sleeves that you buy at any, Magic the Gathering store or whatever, or cheap ones that you can, let like people keep their baseball cards in or whatever. And then you can play your game. You've got these mock-ups in the sleeves and you test it out. And if you don't want to get all fancy and print them in the full colors, these are just test ones, then you just print them in black and white, and that way they're not as expensive to print. There's whole levels of things you can do to do temporary things, to play test stuff before going up for the actual, okay, here's the real stuff, to prototype, just to see how everything is before you send it out to a print shop to get it printed.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, and also, apparently Megabuster Shepard and Evan Fitzhuman chat have identified the animatronic dinosaur mecha toys. They are Mechabonica, which were the precursor to Zoids.
Oh, well, now I know more about toys.
Indeed. But yeah, DW, thank you for the recommendation. I'll have to look into that.
John, do you remember what these labels were called?
I don't. I really don't. Sorry. You described it, and I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, the internet knows.
But you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've heard of these before.
I think so. Yeah. 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 I don't remember what it is.
That's fine. I'm sure our viewers are just captivated by the ins and outs of
Avery. They're called Avery labels.
Avery labels?
Yeah. And they have them for everything. I mean, you have them for specific sizes of shipping labels and, whatever, but they have some that are the right size for playing cards. And the virtue of them is they have Avery labels that you can import into Photoshop or whatever and do everything on in your computer and then print them out onto the labels themselves, and it'll match because you've already done it in the computer. You have the template right there.
All right, I've made a note. Thank you.
All right, guys. We're running low. We're running close to the hour mark. What else do you want to talk about?
Now, the really important thing about Avery labels, I'm kidding.
Good, I was holding my breath there.
Everybody's like, oh,
are we getting a War Pig rant on labels? What's going on here?
Your boy Zach can get away with it. I wouldn't even try because I'm already bored. I'm already falling asleep from just diving back into that. I mean, the thing is, this is research for my secret project, right? And you would be astounded at the number of really, really strange avenues I've had to go down just to research some stuff. And in fact, that Avery label research is still pertinent. I haven't reached the point where I'm going to be doing play testing on cards, but that's in the future, maybe a year away, maybe a year and a half or 2 years away. And so I still have the notes from that in my documents ready to go when I hit the point where I have to start play testing. I mean, I did all that research 10 years ago, and it's sitting around for the point in production when it's pertinent. I had to do some really weird stuff that's had to sit there in a long time waiting for other stuff to get done. It's a huge project. It takes a long time.
We are reaping the rewards.
Well, see, that's the thing about Geek Gab. We don't just talk about stuff. We don't just talk about like, oh, what was the plot of this movie? Oh, was this movie good or bad? Or, oh, what books writer coming on the show have you got? And we also talk about practical stuff for people listening in.
We do.
Maybe not as much as other things, but we give out good, solid information. I'm kind of proud of that. When you listen to this show, we've given out good, solid information about Amazon, about websites to go to get information about different things. We provide a lot of things that you wouldn't expect a podcast like this to provide, and I'm proud of that.
Me too. It's really great talking about the business side of things, talking about it's great that you wrote something, but how do you get from writing something to getting it in front of people, right? Getting it in their eye, into readers' eyeballs.
Yeah.
And I like talking about the gaming stuff. I like, if you go back to some of our older episodes, we have a lot of game night episodes with Douglas Cole, and we spend half of those shows just talking about all the costs and decisions he had to make producing RPG product. I mean, most of us haven't produced an RPG module before, so it's new, it's interesting. There's actually cool information there.
Indeed. And yeah, you should take pride in this. It's not just entertainment; it's a public service.
That's it. That's our catchphrase. Geek Gab, a public service.
There will be 25 cents every time you use it. You're welcome.
Oh, perfect. I'm going to advertise with that now.
All right. Well, should we call this one for today?
I think we're going to call it. It's been really great having you back, Brian. Always a pleasure. Please write more stuff so you can come back and join us.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm going to keep writing until they shovel dirt on my coffin, so no worries.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for everybody hanging out in chat. We had a lively discussion about mechs and games and things with the usual crowd. Appreciate everybody who joined in live to say hi.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
All right, and I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, for listening live, and everybody who listens to the show later. You, of course, can get us on youtube.com/geekgab, youtube.com/geekgab. You can also get us on soundcloud.com, on the iTunes Store, and on the Google Play Store. Just do a search for Geek Gab, and we're available in all those places, so you can download us to the device of your choice. We are signing off for today, but don't you worry.
Wait. Before you say it, I gotta say, get down there. Link to the campaign on Indiegogo is in the show notes. Go push us over the edge. Unlock those trading cards. All right, Warpig, sorry. Go.
Don't you worry. Don't you fret. We will be back.